Are you driving that? What car did you have when you guys picked up?
The RX 350, the Lexus.
Yeah, no, I was gonna make a joke. I know that. I was trying to make a joke about the car that you guys had when you picked up all that silver at the Federal Reserve Bank.
No. That was a what did I have then? I was driving. I know what I was driving. I was driving an Oldsmobile. It was a lowrider. Okay. Is that your question of the tax, the German tax?
Yes, we were talking about it yesterday. That we have two traders. I don't know if they're in here actually today. Two traders from Germany in here, and we were talking about it yesterday. And we've got one. Michael is actually going to move from. He's not considering it. He is moving from Germany to Italy to avoid it.
Okay.
Michael, are you here? Yeah, Michael is here, I think.
I don't know.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're here. So I wanted to be able to, if I was going to be able to talk about it, I wanted you to be here with us.
Oh, wait, hold on one second. Let me get some hot water.
Sure.
Okay. You know what? I'm not at all aware of the tax. So give me a hint and I'll tell you what my views on those types of taxes are anyway.
Michael?
Yeah. Hello, Ira.
Yeah, hi, Michael. How are you?
So I'm fine, thank you.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Eine kleine Nacht. It's nighttime for you, so
okay. It's late afternoon.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, next year there will be a new tax legislation in Germany, which says you basically can't subtract losses from your trades anymore appropriately. For example, if you make
wait, tell me that. What? Yeah. I'm sorry. You can't what?
Subtract losses from your winning trades, which means, for example, if you make 100,000 with winning trades and 60,000 losses with losing trades, you have a net gain of 40,000, and you pay taxes normally on this 40,000 capital gain taxes. Right. With this new law, you're only allowed to deduct 10,000 from the 100,000. So that makes, instead of 40,000, a taxable gain of 90,000. Obviously, that's more than double the amount of 40,000, and it's eventually more than you got in your trading account. So this makes absolutely no sense, and it means the end of futures trading for individual traders. It's a kind of
you know what we call that in America?
No.
The mafia.
Yes, yeah, of course. Yes, yeah. So this is an invention of our socialist Minister of Finance, Mr. Scholz, who's
he's a piece of garbage. I'm sorry.
Yes, I agree.
You might as well bring back LaFontaine.
Maybe, yeah, but yeah, probably. Yeah. So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. So, companies are exempt. They are still eligible to do whatever they like. But for the day trader scene, for the individual trader, this means effectively the end of futures trading from January 21 on. So that's it. That's financial repression. That's
oh my God, yes.
Yeah, that's they urgently need money, of course, and that's the reason why they implemented this kind of, excuse me, shit.
Yeah, you know why? Because you're a parasite, and I believe that's what Montefiore had called, Oscar LaFontaine, back when he was finance minister under Gerhard Schröder.
Right.
Right, and what's his name? One of my favorites, Jaska Fischer, was, of course, the foreign minister, which brought a smile to my face because anybody who is aware of the Baader-Meinhof history of
yeah. Let me think.
what a group that was.
Yes.
Oh Lord. Yes. So yeah. So everybody will depart, and yeah, you'll move to. But is this going to become a European wide? I doubt it, because again, people are mobile. Money is mobile. You don't have to stay there, right?
Exactly. And I don't think Italy or France or whatever will implement this kind of tax. Maybe France, but not Italy.
Yeah, maybe France is right. Yeah.
Mm.
Or as the French are worried about, it's nothing to lose your head over.
No.
Dark humor on my part, sorry.
I got,
That's all right.
I got very good. But oh my gosh, a little slow on the uptake this morning.
Yeah,
That was good.
okay. That's okay. You know, it's some people watch Trevor Noah. I like Trevor Noah too, but you can watch Ira Harris. I'll bring you financial comedy. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I don't understand how they believe that this could be sustained. And tell me, why isn't the Deutsche Börse up in arms screaming about this?
Who? The
The Deutsche Börse. Yeah, this is going to hurt their, I mean, right? The Bund trade, all these other, people trade futures. Deutsche Börse owns many contracts, or Eurex.
That was my point yesterday. That was my question yesterday.
Okay. I can't believe nobody's pushing back, and I can't believe, how can this be? Well, they can do whatever they want until they can't do whatever they want. But again, especially because France is trying to hurt the UK because of Brexit, this would play right into UK hands, because if I'm going to pull up, as we would say here, if I was going to pull up my tent and move, I'm going to go to Britain, because first of all, they're going to be offering all types of tax incentives to everybody. So let's see the way this plays out. But I make that as, but Scholz is not one of my favorites. He thinks he's going to be the next prime minister. I don't think so. Let's hope. Now I certainly hope not, because that's an act of major, it's a very ill-conceived plan as far as I'm concerned. The amount of money you'll make versus the harm you'll do will be greater. But I'm really surprised that Eurex or the Deutsche Börse is not filing some type of suit about this, because this is insanity. And I'd wonder, what do we hear about from my favorite Wolfgang Schäuble? What does he have to say about this?
I haven't heard anything, but there is the second chamber, not the Bundestag, but the Bundesrat, which probably will not recommend this law, and maybe we are lucky next year and it will not be implemented. But I'm not sure about it, because the German futures trader scene is not so large. I mean, the most of the volume at the Eurex is not from individual traders; it's from institutions.
Right. I know that. Listen, it's why to me Deutsche Bank was the way they went after to go after Goldman Sachs and thought that they were going to be a massive trader like that. I don't think they had some good years, but it's just it didn't pan out in that same way. I don't know what to tell you. Believe me, I'd be, and especially because everything's so mobile today, I would absolutely be looking, and I'm sure Cyprus would provide relief for everybody anyway, because they're always looking for people to pick up and move there
Sure.
and create opportunity. That boggles my mind. So ill-conceived, because capital is mobile and you can go anywhere.
Sure, yeah.
So that would be my own, but I would look to see what I think Matt is right to look to see what the exchanges are going to be pushing for here, because this is really stupid to me.
That's true.
Do you see, I read in the same vein, I remember years ago, Schumer was pushing for a transaction tax, and I've heard some scuttlebutt about that in the US. again, trying to push for it after the election. Do you think that that's going to be something that the Dems would probably come after? Certainly some sort of a tax on traders, but would it be a weighted tax? Do you remember that?
Yes, there's all kinds of transaction taxes, you know, and I know that, again, the city of Chicago is now threatening the exchanges. But as Terry reminded, capital is fungible, and they have satellites all over that can become headquarters pretty quick. So there's nothing to be gained for it. And, you know, I sat in once at a CME annual meeting, and of course, not of course, but it was one where the state employees union had planted all it because they bought one share for all these different people. So they had the room loaded with a bunch of people to disrupt. And they kept raising the issue that the exchanges pay enough in taxes. And they went around. It was very disruptive. And I'm sitting there and nobody from the exchange said it, but look at, okay, the exchange, you may view the exchange as not paying enough in taxes, but how about 10,000 traders that live from anywhere from Burr Ridge to Beverly to Glencoe? You know how much they've paid in state income taxes over the friggin' years? And that's part and part of the equation. And if you can't factor that in, you're an idiot. And that's enormous. And now look at, I am now domiciled in Arizona, and I adhere to the strict law. I'm there for 7 to 8 months now a year, and at least outside Illinois. So and it's not because for Arizona, it's not that great a tax relief. There's no tax relief. I pay a progressive income tax, but it's just to be out from under that. And I can move like that. That's why, you know, you can tax the rich all you want, but the rich have more choices. That's what being rich is about, is that money provides you with more choices. So I could pick up and move as long as I have a computer and can open it up. I can trade anywhere. As I'm doing right now, I'm at an Airbnb that down in Florida, and I'm sitting here with 3 screens open, 2 screens. Sorry. So you know what? It's mobile. I just I don't get it. All right, I'm going to jump to the next question if they answers that.
Perfect.
Okay, this is from Shelley, or no question over from was curious thoughts about prospects for moving towards a greater reliance on M&A.
Yeah, that's from Jim Tassoni.
Okay,
Tassoni.
Jim.
Jim was he's an ex-Goldman guy, also a hedge fund owner and trader.
Ex-Goldman, what did he trade at Goldman?
Jimmy, can you talk? I forget what he told me. He was I think he was an analyst at Goldman, and he started his own fund.
Okay. Okay. We're already in MMT, because as soon as Powell, to me, went down that road of through no fault of their own, which I call him the Minister of Social Justice now. Not that I morally, from a moral standpoint, I disagree with him. I don't. Unemployment and the ravages of unemployment are a very serious issue, and always been a blot on capitalism and how you deal with it, which is why we have safety nets. But we're already there. In fact, if you look, the Fed balance sheet has grown. In fact, I just saw the numbers this morning, by 2.9 trillion, exactly what the deficit has been increased. Looks like MMT. And the fact, now we're going to get a good test of it, Jim, because we're seeing it now. All right. Every time they talk about this policy, advancing this policy, you know, the COVID, the next leg of the COVID, and how big will it be? What takes a hit? The 30-year. So for those who don't believe that bond vigilantes, call them what you might, exist, that's where they're playing, because they know that the Fed's really has not been buying much out to that duration. So you've seen the 1030 widen, you've seen the 230 widen. I was just looking at these. So you know, we do a lot of yield curve work, Matt. I always have.
Yep.
And, let me see something. Oh, I'm looking at the 230 right now. Okay. And we, for the year, you know, we've moved from about 80 basis, the 230 on December 31st was about 80 basis points. We're at 143 right now as of this morning. So that's a sizable move. And everything has been, the 210 has moved too, but this is going to force the Fed's hand, which is why, you know, Yellen was out making noises yesterday because, you know, everybody who thinks that they're going to have a position in the Biden administration is out trying to get ahead of it to prove their worth. So Yellen was out. Summers, I didn't see Summers over the weekend. I was heading to Florida by auto. But I guess he was on all the talk shows talking about, don't worry about the dollar, it's a haven. I'd be much more worried about the dollar than that, especially if we go that route. But from what everything Yellen was talking, yield curve control is coming, and she thinks that the Fed should be much more aggressive in quantitative easing further out on the curve. So in this is going to get interesting, but that's all a form, more than a form of MMT. It is MMT.
It is.
Any other stretch, you can call it what you want. We all have our different ways of looking at it as to what MMT is and how it plays out. But I think we're there. I think the Fed has walked down that path. And I always go back to, you know, and this is anecdotal, but for me, it's real. June 27, 2016, the date is imprinted on my brain. When I was at a symposium where Jerome Powell was the speaker, the only speaker, not the keynote, the only speaker, and he took questions, and he wasn't the chairman yet. It was Monday after Brexit. And I asked him when he was talking about, you know, the banks, and I asked him, well, who guarantees the European Central Bank's balance sheet? And he didn't blink an eye. He said they have a printing press. That led me to always be skeptical about Jerome Powell, again, before he was chairman, because the answer came too hard and fast. And there's more to the story, but I won't even tell that. But he was quick to say that. And then I actually became a fan of his in the last quarter of 2018 when he actually started raising interest rates. Now I thought Santelli and I in July had a long discussion in 2018, July of 2018, that you do one or the other. Don't go for both. Don't shrink the balance sheet and raise rates. If you're going to raise rates, let the balance sheet keep investing everything that runs off so that you're not shrinking the balance sheet. But he went both. But I held him in high regard. I go, okay, he's willing to correct some of the things that he deems wrong. Now that proved to be prescient because he was tightening way too much, and what Druckenmiller called the double shotgun approach was effective. And of course, we get the pivot in January. So we're already at MMT. And the reason they're going to have to go down that road more, Jim, in my opinion, is because with the huge amount of debt that the Treasury is building up, they can't afford interest rates to go higher, because that will be the political backbreaker. Because if the cost of financing this deficit rises dramatically, that's going to lead to either the budget exploding greatly or to them starting to cut programs. Both very dangerous political roads. So I just can't see anything beyond that. So that's my view on it.
Looks like they filed the antitrust lawsuit against Google. Huh?
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay, but Pelosi's supposed to speak at what time? 1 or something on Bloomberg?
1, yeah. Yeah, 1 o'clock.
1 your time or New York time?
You know what? Eastern time.
Eastern time. Okay, Eastern time. All right. So
Yeah.
that's not that far away. Okay. So, okay, that's why the market's breaking. Okay. That makes sense to me. Shoot. So I hope that covers that, because I think we're there. And the reason, you can call it whatever you want. If Biden wins, we'll call it MMT. If Trump wins, we'll call it, where did I find that guy, Jerome? That's what we'll call it. So, I don't know, whatever name you're going to want to throw on it, but they're there because once you build up that deficit so huge, you can't afford for interest costs to rise. So to me, that's, MMT by any other name.
Boy, we live in we live in interesting times.
You're being very kind.
It's not, and that was not that was a curse. It was not a it was a Chinese curse, wasn't it? May you live in interesting times was not exactly a blessing.
Right. Hold on, let me get back to the question. So I hope I covered that one.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Anyway, there's so look at. I think if it's a blue sweep, I think there's a lot of people I talk to. Is Jim on?
Yes, he is.
Okay, I'm gonna irritate you, Jim, and I'm gonna irritate probably everybody in this room because I've already irritated some of my friends. And I don't talk politics to people because it's ridiculous. You may as well talk religion because it's become the same thing, unfortunately, where I used to love to just, because you can't talk policy, you talk personalities, and that's a shame on all of us. But one of the things that and this is a policy statement, it's not a political statement. I believe that if Biden wins, and I'm an outlier here, that Lizzie Warren becomes Secretary of Treasury.
I agree.
Now that irritates a lot of people, but when I challenge them, there are people who I can still talk to. I'll say, well, you only find that to be ridiculous because the response comes back then, then we'll see Bernie as Secretary of State. That's the smarmy response. But I have a reason why I think that Elizabeth Warren will be Secretary of Treasury. She capitulated pretty quick with the primaries where she could have stayed.
Mm-hmm.
Politics is about compromise and trade-offs. What did Lizzie get? Now, I'll tell you, this is not conjecture. Back in 2011-12, Obama administration screwed Elizabeth Warren by not giving her the position she so coveted, which was the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She wanted to be chair of that because she wrote the legislation, by the way. But the Wall Street banks feared her so much that they were able to prevail through Geithner and a few others and prevent her being named. Well, she was pissed. She was really pissed. And they knew she was pissed because it had been promised to her, but they caved to the Wall Street crowd, especially Jamie Dimon pushed hard against it. So they came to her and said, well, they offered her the Senate spot, meaning because she was going to run against Scott Brown. Scott Brown was on what was called the Kennedy seat, and he only got filled because there was a Republican governor who replaced, when Ted Kennedy died, replaced him with a Republican. And Harry Reid, and they came to her and said, we'll support you, you'll win. And she said no. And then they had some other people come at her, and she finally capitulated and agreed to run for the Senate, and they threw everything they could, and she won handily. I don't think she's got a bone to pick with Wall Street. And by the way, I don't disagree with her. So if that bothers people, Wall Street has a lot to answer for, and they escaped scot-free because of Geithner's influence in the Obama administration. Geithner and Summers, and which is why Larry Summers is not Fed chairman, by the way, because in 2013 he thought he had it for sure. And Lizzie Warren and Sherrod Brown and what's his name, David Vetters from Louisiana were strong enough to even prevent it from happening. So I believe that Warren is not going to be toyed with this time, and she would like to be Secretary of Treasury because then she could get her quote unquote revenge against Wall Street. We'll see. I am an outlier. Everybody shoots at me and it says, no way, no way, because that's what they have to believe. See, they believe there are those who will hold their nose to vote for Biden, and there are those who will hold their nose to vote for Trump. But those holding their nose to vote for Biden, and I'm answering Jim's question through the back door, believe he'll move to the center, that he's always in the center. He will not move left. Me, I'm going to wait and see.
We don't have any other choice but to wait and see, right? I mean,
right.
you know,
Well,
it's
but
unprecedented.
I think there are certain tells in the game, so to speak. And Lizzie Warren as Secretary of Treasury is certainly one of those tells. How about that?
I see that. And we were taught I had this conversation with somebody a week or two ago that said the same thing. You know what? It could have been you, frankly.
It might have been. It might have been. It might have been. But that's where I said, because a lot of people think now that Lael Brainerd is going to get it because she wants it. But I think Lael Brainerd is going to be Fed chair, by the way. So we'll see. You know what? But I always go back to that. And this is Ira Harris. You know, when I really believed, and I have the blogs that I wrote long before, in the weeks that Summers was not going to get it. I was actually, that's when Kelly Evans used to have me on every once in a while. One time she had, right before the Fed nomination, she had Kudlow on. And it was the afternoon, you know, Kudlow was a BSD at CNBC. And he was on with her going, well, my sources tell me that it's going to be Summers. And I emailed off an email to Kelly Evans. I said, tell Kudlow I'll bet him $100,000 payable to his favorite charity that it's not Summers.
Is that who you pissed off at CNBC?
One of the many. You know. Well, you know what? I called out what's his name, Simon Hobbs, who I actually liked, but he said something I took him to task for, and Andrew Sorkin and I got into it one morning where I thought he was totally off base about something, and yeah, it's fine. But yeah, I didn't care. And Santelli and I had a long chat a week and a half ago because I haven't been on Santelli, but I'm doing all these nice podcasts with Financial Repression Authority, and I really, I get to be on with Faber, and now I'm doing with Gary Schilling in 2 weeks, the day after.
Well, that'll be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But he wants questions submitted, so that'll be interesting too. So that's my view on that. I hope that answers Jim's question.
Yeah, it did, and it was there's so much that coming down the pike in 2021 after the election that just it's unprecedented. I have no idea how to even prepare for it.
None of us do. But I'll tell you this, now I've done all this driving. I will tell you something that's really strange. No bumper stickers, no Biden bumper stickers, no Trump. So minimalist, and some road signs here. And I've just driven through Indiana, through Kentucky, through Tennessee, down through Georgia. I sound like I'm with Sherman, and in Florida. Now, not until I got to really, I would say, in Palm Beach County, there's both Trumps and Biden. Now they have these big Trump wooden signs up, and I saw a little sign posted next to them that the Trump signs are under video surveillance. They have little cameras attached to them for people who come and rip them down.
Oh my gosh.
I could go show them to you down here. I'm sitting. So it's been, and I always pay attention to that. You know, the truckers do too. There are people who poll truckers to what they see. I haven't looked at them recently, but I know what I saw. Now, Sunday, I'll start driving, you know, again through Georgia, Alabama, do some Mississippi, because I'm going to take that route. So I'm going to see a lot. And I pay attention because it's the political scientist in me where I notice those things. So which shows you how things have gone so quiet.
Huh. Just there is nothing going on from all the way down, huh?
I'm telling you, I was amazed. You know, a sign here or there.
Yeah.
But nothing. Usually you see bumper stickers, you know.
Just everything.
Yeah. Everybody is quiet. Now, I think my wife told me that, you know, she had talked to some people in Arizona, and when Trump was there was a 30-mile long car motorcade with all Trump, you know, when Trump was there, all with Trump stuff, 30 miles on like Highway 17 or something.
There was I was talking about that this morning before the market opened, but by the way, I flattened up just now, guys, in the S&P. The only way that I know how to prepare for what we've got coming is just to prepare physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and just be ready for just whatever it is that's coming, because it's going to be unprecedented. Like just above, Frank had written a comment about MMT to keep inflation in check. They're going to have to tax us a lot. How do we rebel against that? Earlier,
you know what? Frank's point is so well taken.
It's sure.
Because if you go back and read Warren Mosler and even Stephanie Kelton, who have been, you know, huge, you know, and really put MMT out there in an official capacity, in a more intellectual academic capacity, they are ultimately dependent upon a enlightened electorate. That if they see that, so Frank's point is exactly where they go, that an enlightened electorate will move to raise taxes, and therefore you don't have to worry about the inflationary aspects. That's how they see this, by the way. Me, I'm still looking for that enlightened electorate. Not to say, and that's not to demean the American voter. I believe the American voter is very wise, and they understand how this all works. And my wife, who does a lot of, she's a CPA, and she has for 20 years already worked with the IRS and Robin Hood Foundation doing tax returns for those who make under, I think the number is $35,000 or $40,000. And she sits and does tax returns. When we lived in New York for 2 years, she did them in Harlem, and she would always be amazed at how people could cite who you wouldn't expect to know much about, but they understood the earned income tax credit. They were very knowledgeable about the tax code. And that's from the source. My wife is no one to be fooled with. And she was always amazed. And I think that's very true. Americans, they know when they're being screwed, but they also know when they're getting stuff. And you know what? As they've always said about Social Security, it's the third rail. Why? Because everybody thinks they're getting something that they've worked for and earned. You know, same with my father's generation with Medicare, even though I'd say, you didn't pay in shit. And he'd say to me, so what do you expect me to die? I go, no, I don't know. You didn't pay in. So he would give me the back, you know, hey, I'll give you a whack, you know. That was me being the wise guy that he raised, so right back at him. But Frank makes a very good point. Can we get there? Well, you know what? I don't know many people who vote to raise taxes. It would take an enlightened voter to say, yeah, please tax me more. I understand that we overdid this, that we got to, you know, there's only 3 ways I know to get rid of debt. and they're not good. They're not good. So it's a more than credible question. And then, again, as I famously say to everybody in any rooms I go into, we could jabber and jibber jabber all we want, but if we can't find a way to make an investable outcome, profitable outcome, it's just all nonsense anyway.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. What about Ira, along those lines? Oh, hold on. No, wait.
Gosh, these fucking scam calls. I'm sorry.
Oh, I hate those. I hate those.
I know.
I get them all. I get my vehicle warranty calls all the time.
Oh, yeah, I get those. Now, yesterday I got a Social Security one, and they wanted me to give them. I said, "Well, if you're calling me from, don't you have all that information?"
Yeah, yeah.
And I get nasty.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a big fan of them either.
No.
The hell was I gonna? I forgot my point.
That's okay.
The follow-up point that I was gonna make. It'll come back to me. There is oh fuck, what was it? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Well, you will come back to it.
Yeah, well. All
Okay.
right, so Shelley's got a question about the economic numbers that China puts out.
Okay, Shelley, I've answered this question for so many years. Here's the way that I look at it. I have never trusted the Chinese numbers, as I say, because I'm a wise guy. They're as good as massaging the number as Jack Welch was when he was at GE. It's amazing how he hit those numbers every quarter. That's the way I look at the Chinese. So I always tried to look around the margins. I would watch Australia, New Zealand, Japan, everybody else because if the Chinese numbers were robust, they should be doing really well too. And that's how capitalism works at the margins. Its prices are always established at the margins because it's always one more. What's your marginal propensity? So you know what? I don't have to. And my reasoning was any country that, and this is, I'm going back 15, 16 years with my thinking on this, got into a heated debate with a guy, Bob Savage from Goldman. So if Jim may know him, who was their currency analyst. And Bob and I known each other for years and years, but I was highly skeptical of Chinese data. And that was, of course, was in the time when Jim O'Neill was, everybody's love song because of his BRICS acronym. I don't trust it because, my thinking was if you don't allow Google and Facebook didn't even exist, but if you didn't allow them to operate freely, then I was skeptical about anything you were putting out. And that still is today, but there's so many other ways to skin that cat. And I don't mean, there's those groups that put out, there's that one group that puts out all that data based on electrical power usage. Oh, okay, we can play all we want. I don't have to. There's other ways that I can look at it. And you know what? Now I get to watch the yuan, and that's boggling everybody's minds. So the fact that the yuan has been as strong as it is, why? But I think that's due.
Along with,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Along those lines, I guess, there's, we haven't heard much about the BRICS nations lately. I know that we've got, or at least maybe I just haven't noticed it because we're so focused on what's happening in the United States and what's going on with the election. But we don't hear much about BRICS, and we don't hear much about the movement away from the dollar lately. The gold is hanging in there. But now we've got the Fed talking about digital currencies and moving into blockchain and what are your thoughts on that, Ira? How do you see us moving towards that?
I have a lot of thoughts on that. So, well, the blockchain end is merely the technology, which I'm more interested in, and I'm doing some work with some people. But I know we have to put it, now we got to give it the acronym, central bank, CBDC. It sounds like what I buy at the pot store.
Yeah, me too. Oh,
See,
no,
right?
no, not me. I'm sorry. I haven't
Okay.
don't know
Hey,
what you're talking about.
my wife has a medicinal card. She needs it. She really lives in a lot of pain. That's what I think about. You know what? They're going to try to push this digital currency down everybody's throat because people like Larry Summers and Rogoff, and it's now making its rounds for academia. And they say, well, they've even gone to say that COVID lives on cash for 30 days. My brother tells me that's pure nonsense. And my brother is, just by happenstance, one of the most highly respected infectious disease doctors, certainly in the country, if not the world. No, he's not Fauci, but they know each other well. My brother headed infectious diseases at Rush Presbyterian St. Luke's for a number of years. He's still working, even though he's 70. How old are you? He'll be 70. He's 75. So he says that's nonsense. But that's how they're going to sell it. They want to get rid of currency. But why do they want to get rid of currency? Because what negative interest rates have shown them is that if you go negative, people will take their money out of banks or move it, and then then negative currencies don't get the velocity to money that they're trying to get. In fact, it's a detraction because, first of all, people save more because interest rates are lower. Secondly, people will take their money out and they may actually buy gold because, hey, as Dr. Faber, when I was on with him 10 days or so ago, he said, why would I buy a Swiss bond? Now here's a guy who's a Swiss citizen. Why would I buy a Swiss bond at 110 that in 10 years is going to expire at 100? I'm losing money. I'm paying up to lose money. So they know that will change the way people look at all kinds of things. So if you go to digital money, and I've thought long and hard about this, and I've read enough about it, what will happen is this. You don't have currency. The central bank will control your money because, yeah, they'll deposit it in an account for you, but they'll take interest rates to negative 5%. Well, let me ask you what you'll do with your electronic money when the yield is negative 5%. What do you think you're going to do with it? The operative answer is spend it or invest it in crazy things, because how are you going to let it sit there and just erode? Now, we know that's part of their toolkit, whether it's 5%, but even if let's say 1%. At negative 1%, everybody who's going to leave their money in a bank account, please raise your hand. Unless deflation, okay, I'll present a caveat. And that's why when they compare the US with Japan, I say hogwash. Japan had actual deflation for a number of years, where even interest rates at zero relegated you with a real yield of almost 2% because they had deflation. The United States, if they went negative, we don't have deflation. Now, people that I highly respect, like Lacey Hunt and Rosenberg, will argue that it'll create deflation eventually, and they may well be right. But that's, to me, what the digital currency is all about, is that they will take control. Barbara called you. I didn't answer it. That's, to me, the end game for digital currency.
Michael's going to buy some silver.
I'm not a fan of it. They'll have to show me more. I'm just not a fan of it. You know what? We already have digital currency. It's called your credit card.
Yeah.
A debit card is essentially a digital currency, because if you throw enough money on your debit card, right?
What about that's? I didn't think about that.
Well, let me ask you a question. If they charged you 2% on your debit card account, how much money would you put on there?
None. Absolutely none.
They incent you to use it right now, but digital currency would be forcing you. So I don't, my early take on this is like Rufus T. Firefly in duck soup, whatever it is, I'm against it.
Very good. Duck soup.
Duck soup, I love it. One of my favorite. I'm a big Marx Brothers fan. Okay, let me get to Andy's question. Shelley, is that good? Yes, no? Oh, who else? Okay, let's get to rising. Well, you know what? I've been a big fan of the grain markets. It's, my portfolio has been mining stocks and ag stocks and for the last 4 months. And I said, I'm only buying them on the break. Now I'm actually starting to unwind a little bit because the move for, between Bunge and Archer Daniel has been for what are considered, very slow old stock, but a nice dividend. So to me, it was like almost a bond, but depreciation has been dramatic. So, as I'm prone to do, I'm taking a little bit off here, a little bit. It's been a very heady, Archer's is over, and even Bunge's trying to push back towards its opening high. So I like these. I think that China has shown the world that, hey, they need grain and they're buying grain. So, and they don't want to, one thing China cannot afford is to ever be caught off being short food. And it's really shifted. That's one curve. The ag curve around the world has shifted since the onset of China into somewhat of a middle class mentality because they eat a lot of protein and protein begets soybeans. Look at, you've had record harvest after between the US and Brazil the last few years, and beans are still trading what? 1060 today.
Mhm.
And we're into the US harvest, which is supposed to be a pretty good harvest. So there's a lot of demand out there. And those stockpiles can disappear quickly when there's this much demand, and there is a lot of demand. And Brazil, as I'm quick to point out, Matt, if you look at soybeans, because Brazil is probably the largest grower of soybeans now, even surpassing the US, soybean prices in terms of, Brazilian real. So for Brazilian farmers,
It's expensive for them, isn't it?
it's record high prices for Brazilian farmers.
Right. The flow of capital is, and the way that everything works in a macro sense is astounding, and the way that everything is related.
Oh yeah.
That's almost a form of well, it is. It's not almost. It's a form of indirect support for the U.S. markets.
With the massive depreciation in the real this year, okay, the bean real relationship on December 31st, they closed out the year at 37.5 real to a bushel of soy, for a bushel of soybeans. Okay, we are now trading 59.15 real to a bushel of beans. So you are record high. So the Brazilian farmers are going to plant, as we say, fence post to fence post. But it's been dry, although they're expected heavy rainfall in the next 2 weeks. But it's been dry. So, any kind of worry, and the Chinese have to get out in front of it because they cannot afford to be short food. Look at wheat prices.
What's wheat been doing? I haven't looked at wheat in a while.
What's wheat? Well, take a guess where you think it is. Don't
I
look.
I really haven't looked. I have no clue.
628.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
What's what's the symbol on CQG?
Well, I use ZWAZ0. That'll give you the lead month.
Damn it. ZWE?
Yeah, ZWA.
ZWA. Oh my Lord. Okay.
Yeah, we're on 5 years highs if you put up a weekly continuation chart.
Lord.
It's another reason, because I think that farmers, if they didn't have a good year, I don't think that they were going to be voting for Trump per se, because I think the Trump tariffs really hurt the ag sectors in several states because they were so badly timed. But right now, in fact, in the other room I go to regularly, Robert from Kansas, have a lot of respect for him because he works in the game, has done his own tour and commented, in talking to bankers throughout the ag sector in rural areas from Kansas to Illinois, that the bankers were talking about how flush farmers were and how well they were doing. A lot of equipment being bought. So
I mentor Robert directly, and so Robert and I have some really, really interesting. I mentor him in trading, and he's actually, I think I get more out of the conversations than he might.
He's a interesting guy. I enjoy him, and
I do too.
And
He's
very
not
much,
here.
really. One day I looked forward to having I told him, I said, if I stop I won't be stopping in Wichita this year, but if I was, I would stop and have a beer with him.
When you're in town, we'll have a get together, and like Ira did. I mean, Anthony did.
He's a good guy. He's a very good guy, and he's really opened my eyes to many things. So I appreciate his wisdom.
I want to circle back.
I'm going to give you one more question, and that's it.
Okay. All right. Then I'll wait. I'll hold off on the.
We can do more of these.
Yeah. I know. I took, and I'm sorry about that. I took last week off.
Okay.
I told you in the email. I took all the last week off from trading. I had to catch up and some
you're
things, and
entitled.
I wanted to meet. So maybe we can find some time to chat on the phone. Just about some of the meetings I had last week. I met with Brinza, Mike Brinza. Remember him?
Wait a minute. What were you doing with Mike Brinza?
Oh my God, you sound like he ought to be locked up. We were just golfing.
You mean from Man Financial?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm very Mike. What's he doing?
He is now working with Merrick's.
With who?
With Merrick Spectrum.
I don't know those guys. Tell them to send me a check. Tell them to hire me as an analyst and send me.
Well, Merrick's bought RCG. So, and as soon as they bought RCG,
that's right. They bought Roosevelt Collins Group.
And as soon as they bought RCG, I closed my accounts there. That day.
I don't blame you. I'll tell you who I talked to though, because my wife and I, when she was still playing golf, she hadn't been that much rain, but we went to play at Glencoe, and Steve Sullivan was the starter. Remember Sullivan?
Yeah, of course.
Huh?
Yeah.
I was playing with my wife and Ricky Riedman, and
that would have been great.
And Sully was the starter, and actually him and Jack called me about 3 weeks ago to discuss something. The two of them, which I always enjoy.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Yeah, but I had a lot of respect for Sully. You're a good trader.
Oh yeah, great guy too. Great guy.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I bought a lot of orders for him because he'd say, "Get the order to Ira." I said, "No, I'm not filling today." And Tommy Mangan would come. He says, "Sully said you got filled." I said, "Okay."
So Brins and I had such a great time with him, and he is such a great guy.
Yeah. Him and Goldsberry. I talk to John Goldsberry still quite a bit.
He talks to him too. Mikey does. We were talking about him.
I talked to John. John's an avid blog reader, and he'll call me. Listen, that team of him and Frank Goldak, they were top notch. They were really good customer people.
They really are great guys.
Yep.
I'll fill you in on some of the things that we had met about and we're talking about, because it's some things that we were talking about doing together. And Michael is just a great guy. So we went golfing at my club last week and had a good time. We're going to circle back and have lunch, I think, in another week or two. But before you take off, I just want to get your take on the election. Just kind of an overall just what your opinion is, and
Okay.
everybody's got an opinion, but I respect yours more than most.
I'll give you the down and dirty. If it's a blue sweep, it'll, we were just talking about it. I think, there's no secret to this. It'll be the opposite. If it's a blue sweep on election night, so that just like with Trump at 2 a.m, you knew he had won. And if you remember what happened, the bond
Sold.
limit up and the S&Ps went limit down for their nighttime session. And
That
then
was a lovely night.
it was a crazy, lovely night. If you were, it was a lovely night. I think this time, I think the market will rally. That's the equity market thinking, whoa, we're going to get so much fiscal stimulus. But I think that rally will last about as long as the Trump election night break. That's just my opinion, because I think the market is so enamored with this huge fiscal stimulus. That's all it's focused upon.
So bonds will get whacked in that scenario?
Yes. Yeah. But first of all, if you get to that scenario anyway, what is the Fed? Because that's my question. What is the Fed forced to do?
Yep.
They can't let those interest rates scream, because if they do, again, you get to the worst possible outcome for a Democratic Congress, let alone with the White House, which is rising interest rates raises the cost of the financing of the deficit. Now you have to make real political decisions or say the hell with it and just keep going. All things that will not be positive for the dollar. I'm negative. I'm one of the few bears on the dollar, and I have been, as you know, since late May. I disagree with a lot of people on the way they see this, because to me, I think the United States is acting so fiscally irresponsible, but everybody else follows down the same path, which is why, and they have lower interest rates. So anybody out there searching for nominal interest rates comes to the dollar. And you can see it right now. If you overlaid the yen with the bonds, the 30-year bonds, when 30-year bond yields go up, the yen goes lower, because that's the way the algos are built, that Japanese investors are going to be chasing nominal yields. Well, that works until it doesn't work, and Matt, my strategy is always to look for relationships that begin to break down.
Yep.
Because I think there's more money to be made when those relationships are, that they're signaling. And for me, for markets to be successful, they have to operate as signaling mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
The Fed has destroyed the signaling mechanism of the bond market, but that leaves us other things, that we have to pay attention to.
That is an incredibly profound statement right there.
So the bottom line will be, and you don't even hear Powell or anybody else from the Fed use this phrase anymore, yield curve control.
Nope.
They're afraid of it because they know what it means, because that's when the Fed finally pushes to where they have to come and intervene to save the market and not let the bond vigilantes push yields to where the market may want them. They can't allow the market to perform. And that will be a phenomenal tell. And the Fed has painted themselves into this corner where they're going to either have to go that or pull back from everything they've been doing. But then that calls into question everything that Powell has talked about, because what's Powell's stance? Powell's not, if you listen to him, and that's why I call him the Minister of Social Justice.
It makes me chuckle every time you say that.
Yeah, you can chuckle, but again, I don't.
Well, but it's serious. I know.
It is dead serious, because he is not going to be placated until minority employment, by minority employment, I'm talking about Black and Hispanic employment, reaches the levels it was before the onset of COVID. And if that's your game plan, tell me how you can allow interest rates to rise. You know what? I still have that question. And I was off, because now we're at 7.8% unemployment, which I thought if we got to 9% by December, it would be unbelievable. But although Powell says the official unemployment rate is actually 11%, by his measures, he says that it's 3% higher than what the BLS says. So and headline inflation is measured at 6%. Would the Fed raise rates? That's still my operative question. Right?
Not a chance.
I don't see it. So you're a better man than I, Gungadin.
Is there anybody that actually will take the other side of that argument when you talk to people about it?
No. Some people throw it out there. Kathleen Hayes did a great interview, and I just happened to catch it. I think it was last Tuesday. I had played a round of golf, and I had gotten into the car. And it was 5:30 in the evening. I'm listening to her. I turned on Bloomberg Radio because I had a 40-minute drive home, and I'm listening to her interview Robert Kaplan, and it was really a good interview because Kathleen really can get at it, and she got at it, and it seems to me that he's one of those who are worried about the potential financial instability, which the Fed minutes seem to want to address. And she pushed at him and got him to say, well, that paragraph that follows, because, the unconditional, well, it's not unconditional. Do you remember that was in the Fed minutes?
No, of course.
That seems to be that there were a few who are really worried about the outcome of financial instability. And actually over this weekend, there were some statements also out about, well, if the Fed didn't want to have to raise rates to halt the economic growth, that they could use macroprudential tools to curb any possible bubbles. Did you see that this weekend?
No, I didn't.
It was out this weekend. I really thought the market would actually be lower because of that. Because the way I read it is, hey, they're concerned about it, and that means that the Fed can raise margin. The Fed has that ability. That was always an issue of Greenspan. Greenspan said, I don't want to go that route because I don't know what a bubble is. I can't define a bubble. So therefore, the phrase was to lean or clean. So should they lean into financial excesses or just be there to clean up the mess when it pops? And this is still an ongoing discussion. So there are a few who are concerned, but Powell, to me, has painted himself into a very difficult corner by becoming the social justice ministry and pursuing those bogeys of those unemployment levels. That's just my opinion. So that'll weigh out there, but we can discuss this further. But I'm going to cut this now. I think I gave it enough.
Yes, beautiful. When do you want to? When do you want to continue?
I don't know. You'll send me a note. I'm hanging around. I won't be to Arizona until I think late mid next week or late next week. So then I'll be set. I have to get there before so I can vote, because that's where I do vote at, my wife and I. And actually, unlike living in Illinois, my vote is actually going to matter this year.
Oh my Lord! How about that?
Yeah, your vote hasn't mattered in so many years.
Nope.
Let's see.
It doesn't. It hasn't. You know what? There's one reason I'm voting this year in Illinois is because of the state's attorney race.
Okay.
Or the Cook County state's attorney.
You mean you're gonna throw out Fox?
Oh, I don't even know who. I know nothing about the guy, Pat O'Brien. That guy's name very well could be Maury Goldstein, but they're throwing Pat O'Brien on the sign so that everybody on the south side and the west side, everybody on the southwest side of the city votes for him.
Wait, you mean Marquette Park is voting for Pat O'Brien?
Oh yeah. Not too many people are going to be jumping up at Kimmy this year. My father, when I was a kid, my father was before he became right of G. Gordon Liddy. He was the Democratic precinct captain in our neighborhood. So when I first started voting, Dad, who do I vote for here? Just go down and vote for all the Irish names, he said.
That's enough said. I don't have to hear anymore.
Vote for all the Irish names.
I live across the street from Edgebrook, Sauganash. You want to know what the signage looks like there? And I happen to know Billy Conway, who ran against her in the Democratic primary.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, because he worked. He doesn't anymore, but he worked with the Praxis group. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, I know Billy pretty well. And he's, really, Billy is I'm not going to say he was the most qualified to be state's attorney, but he's a good guy and he would have been a far step ahead. How people can vote for that thing, for what she's done
Oh
and
boy,
continues to do. Pathetic.
continues. Yeah. How many lives have been lost, right?
Oh my God. You know, she doesn't even care.
Uh-uh.
Doesn't even care.
Well, thanks for your time, Ira.
Okay. All right. So I'll talk to you guys, and all right, we'll work this out further, deeper.
Always. Thank you so
Okay.
very much, and have a safe trip home.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Another great conversation. I mean, really, another great conversation. And Sarah, I was going to try to circle back for your question. That was a really good one. It would have been nice to have gotten that earlier, by the way. No, I was trying to circle back to that, but we had gotten into a little bit of a kind of a kind of a bullshit session. No, not really bullshit, but just kind of a talking about roundabout things. But we were talking about yesterday, I forget who in the hell I was having this conversation with. I think it was, I was talking to my boys about this when I was driving home, is that when I was, and we've talked about it before too, when I was on the floor, and then also when I started the second phase of my career off the floor, I was able to find traders that I knew, because I can see them, that I can emulate, I can follow, I can be like, I can ask questions of. Oh, I said this yesterday in the group. I said it to you guys. All right. Yeah. I can talk to Ira. I can talk to Margie Teller. I can talk to Joe Gibbons. I can talk to Praz. I can ask questions of those guys. I can talk to anybody, and I can learn as I do now. And this is what is the important stuff of what we're doing. I wanted to, we got some idea of Ira's. I wanted to get a little bit more into what he thought. Well, I guess we got his insight into the dollar. We got his insight into. I wanted to know what he thought of the bonds today. But we got into a little bit of that. I wanted to try to get into some more, but that was good. It was a good conversation. We know what his position is on the equities going into the into everything. So look at another great conversation, right? And so Jared Putnam and Jimmy and anybody else that's new, whose first conversation with Ira was today, please, guys, do not hesitate in sending me questions anytime you hear anything or you read anything that you want Ira to, you want to discuss with Ira. It doesn't have to be like a question, like a, this is something I've been meaning to say too, is look, you guys don't have to approach Ira Harris the way I do. I approach him as, as a student teacher sort of a thing, mentor mentee, right? So you guys don't have to. If you want to push back, he loves it when we push back and we challenge him on certain things. Jake, I see you in here for the first time in a while. I wish I'd have seen you earlier when he was talking about beans and he was talking about the harvest coming in. The first thing I thought of was, damn, I wish Jake was here. Now I see your name. I thought, boy, I wish Jake was here so we can talk about his harvest and what he's doing. But I approach Ira again from a teacher standpoint. So I don't push back. I listen and I take notes. Again, I've got another page and a half of notes. I always have got a couple of notes, pages of notes from our conversations. And when we're done, I go back and I look things up. You guys don't. He loves it. You guys don't have to be like that. He loves it when we push back. He loves it when, oh God, Troy, are you kidding? There isn't anything that he talks about that isn't above my head, except for when he says, I'm bullish or bearish equities. something like that, that's why I take notes and try to figure things out. But those of you guys who have a better idea, Chris, Jared, Jimmy, Noman, all of you guys. By the way, Noman, how in the hell are you in tier 1 and you're not in tier 2? I didn't realize that until this morning. I knew it, but I didn't realize it. Anyway, I miss you in the room. So feel free to push back, ask questions, if there's something that you don't agree on, please. He enjoys that. It forces that kind of conversation, forces Ira into examining his own suppositions, in a deeper sense. All right, guys, let's all head back into